All right, folks, I'm back down here in the brew house. Want to talk to you about something that's extremely, extremely important. Um, this may be the most important video that you watch on this website, or the one down below that I will link, which will go into far more detail than I'm going to. Cleaning and sanitizing your equipment. Perhaps the single most important aspect of good home brewing is having clean equipment. Um, I can't understate the importance of cleanliness during your brew day and sanitizing anything that's going to touch your wort or your beer after the boiling process. Now, the reason that I say that is because there's two sides to brewing. There's the hot side, which is everything that's going to happen to your wort before you boil it and during the boiling process. And then there's the cold side, which is everything that touches your wort or beer after the boil process is over. So whether that means moving it to the fermenter or moving it from the fermenter into a keg or into bottles, anything that touches or your beer or that your beer will go through, like tubes, if you use a funnel, like anything that's going to touch your beer after the boil is over has to be sanitized and cleaned. Okay, anything on the hot side, like your kettle, your mash paddle, your mash tun, if you use one of those. I won't be covering mash tuns in this video because mash tuns are expensive. You can make them yourself, but some people just use like a cooler like that, which I may cover if I end up doing a quick all grain video for you guys to show you the all grain process. But I know I'll do the extract process, so you'll see some of this then. But the key to making good beer and safe beer, and when I say safe, I mean like not infected, no bacteria, no germs, not going to get you sick, not going to get your friends sick, not going to get your mother-in-law sick. Don't want that. You don't want to spend hours and hours brewing beer and then have it get ruined because you didn't clean your equipment or because you didn't sanitize your equipment. All right? So, having said that, there's a ton of products out there. You're going to hear this from me a lot. There's a ton of this, there's a ton of that, there's a ton of this, there's a ton of that. There literally is a ton. I remember when I started brewing, I used OxyClean. And I know now that OxyClean, even though I still use it as my initial cleaner, I don't use it as my final cleaner. Okay? And what I mean by that is when you're brewing you've mashed in your kettle, or you've gone through the boiling process and you've moved your wort from your kettle into your fermenter and you've pitched your yeast and you've put it away, you still need to go back and clean all the equipment that you used, right? Because your kettle's going to have gunk in the bottom of it. When you're done fermenting, your fermenter is going to have yeast cake in the bottom of it. It's going to have that krausen that forms during the fermentation process is going to be all around the outside of your fermenter. You're going to have to clean all that. So your first round of cleaning is always to just clean what you can see. So if you can see grains or like yeast that's stuck to the inside of your kettle or your fermenter or wherever, whatever, any kind of soil or waste that you can literally see, you can clean that with just like soap and water. So get yourself like some Dawn. I wouldn't get anything that's scented. You can use OxyClean if you want to. But basically you're just using some kind of a mild soap and water to clean all of the soil and waste that's stuck in your kettle, in your fermenter, or whatever, your kegs, your bottles, whatever. You clean those out, right? Everything you can see. Once your kettles and all your equipment doesn't have any visible signs of stuff, of gunk on it, right? Everything looks clean to your eye. It's not necessarily clean. So from that point, you need a really good, powerful cleaner, okay? The two products I'm going to show you are both made by 5 Star. They're renowned in the industry. Their products are a little bit more expensive than your cleaning section Dawn, but they do a much better job, and you're paying for quality. Okay. So the first product I recommend, again, clean what you can see with soap and water, but then clean it again with a really good cleaner. Okay. When it comes to cleaner, my recommendation is this. It's 5 Star PBW. This is Professional Brewery Wash. This is what breweries use in their equipment. Okay. This stuff is awesome. It will clean anything, okay? There are instructions. I'm going to flip my camera. There are instructions on the container. It tells you how much to use per gallon of water. It tells you what to do, etc. Let it sit for 20 to 30 minutes, blah, 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 blah. I mean, gives you particular instructions, okay? There's instructions for brew kettles and lauter tons. I'm not going to talk about lauter tons on this website. There's also instructions for fermenters, conditioning and aging tanks, and kegs. You can also use this in your house. So like if you want to like clean like a frying pan or like your grill, your casserole dishes, pots and pans, stuff like that, cookie sheets, you can actually use this stuff for that. I wouldn't recommend buying a $30 container of this and using it for that purpose, but you could if you wanted to. It's up to you. Some people, money's not an object. For me, I'm not using that. All right, that's for cleaning. Very, very important. Okay, it's easy rinsing. It does a great job. Make sure your stuff's clean. Okay, you can use that. You should use the PBW on all of your equipment. Everything you use, every funnel, every tube, every mash paddle, your kettle, your fermenter, all of it. Okay. After you've cleaned what you can see, use this to clean the gunk and the germs and the bacteria that you don't see. Okay? That makes sense. All right. Now, sanitation. Sanitizing. Sorry. Sanitation. I guess it kind of is the same thing. Sanitizing. Okay? Sanitizing. Super, 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 super important. Okay? Your equipment needs to be sanitized. Anything that touches your beer or your beer comes in contact with after the boil has ended has to be sanitized. Anything that touches it. Okay? Ultimately, you don't want to be messing with your beer while it's in the fermenter because once fermentation begins, oxygen is not your friend. For every other part of the brewing process, oxygen is your friend, but not during fermentation and not after. Okay? That leads to oxidation. Your beer won't last as long. You want to try to keep it out of oxygen as much as possible and keep any exposure to oxygen out of it as soon as possible. That means using tubes, using pumps if you have a pump, stuff like that. So your fermenter, anything that goes in your fermenter, anything you touch, the scissors you use to cut your yeast packages open, the yeast package itself, your airlock, if you're taking a gravity reading with a hydrometer and you use a tube, sanitize that. If you have to stick your hand in there for some reason, sanitize your hand. I'm not kidding when I tell you, once the boil's over, any single thing that touches your beer has to be sanitized. The bucket it goes in, the lid, everything. Okay? Now, for sanitizing, and again, I'll get into this in more detail, and so will the video below. But this is the sanitizer that I use. This is called Star San. This stuff is well used in this hobby. There are other kinds out there. There are other kinds of cleaners out there. These are the two. The PBW is the cleaner I recommend. The Star San is the sanitizer that I recommend. The reason I recommend it is twofold. Number one, it is safe to touch your beer. If there's a little bit of sanitizer left in your fermenting bucket and you pour your beer into it, it is not going to hurt you. It's very foamy, so you know it's working, all right? When you're putting this in your fermenter, okay, it's going to leave foam behind. Don't fear the foam. The foam's not going to hurt you. It's not going to hurt your beer. It's not going to affect the flavor. It's not going to do anything bad to it. It's completely sterile, and it will not hurt your beer at all. It will eventually just dissipate, okay? There's clear instructions on both of these packages on how to use them. Sanitizing is so important. I cannot understate it. You've got to keep it clean. You've got to keep it sanitized. These two products are going to be your best bet. It goes without saying, maybe some people are wondering, but I am not endorsed by 5-Star in any way, shape, or form. They just make the best products on the market. So spend the extra few bucks, get the good stuff. You won't be disappointed. And make sure you keep your equipment clean and sanitized at all times.